Yeah, guys, welcome back to this exciting and educating channel just for math. Okay, in this lesson or video, I want to talk about the beauty of discriminants. This should be the second part. Okay, now for those of you that have seen the first part of this video on discriminants, I did talk about how to determine the nature of a quadratic root using the quantity discriminant. Okay, here I want to talk about how to determine if a quadratic equation can be solved by factorization method. Of course, you should know that there are four methods of solving quadratic equation. That is the formula method. You can solve quadratic equation by formula method. You can solve by graphical method, by factorization method, and the completing the squared method. Now, for those of you that are familiar with quadratic equation, you agree with me that one of the fastest and easiest method of solving a quadratic equation is by factorization method. That is provided the equation can be the expression, uh, the quadratic expression given ax squared plus bx plus c can actually be factorized. Okay, as soon as we add the equality sign equal to 0, it becomes an equation. So if you can factorize the left hand side of the given expression or equation, as the case may be, then you can solve that equation by factorization method. Okay, now the question is, how do you determine if you can actually solve any given quadratic equation by factorization method? And the answer is still can be the correct question can be answered by actually computing this quantity also, or again, which is the topic or our subject matter, discriminant. Okay, with the discriminant you can tell if the given equation can be solved by factorization method. So how do you determine that? Now, once you calculate this quantity discriminant and you get an answer that is a perfect squared, if you solve for the discriminant and you get a perfect squared, now it means that that quadratic equation can be solved by factorization method. So what do I mean by perfect squared? That is a number whose square root is another whole number. For instance, 1 is a perfect squared because the square root of 1 is equal to 1, which is a whole number. 4 is another perfect squared because the square root of 4 is 2. All right, and 9 is another perfect squared because the square root of 9 is 3, which is a whole number. 16 is the next perfect squared because the square root of 16 is 4. So when you solve for the discriminant and you get an answer like 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, because square root of 25 is 5, 36, 64, and so on and so forth. So if you arrive at any number that is a perfect square, then that quadratic equation can be solved by factorization method. Else you have to fall back to either formula method, graphical method, or completing the squared method. Okay, let's see how to actually apply what I have just said. Okay, now let's answer this question. Determine which of the following quadratic equations can be solved by factorization method. So we have four of the equations: 2x squared minus 7x minus 5 equal to 0, 5x squared plus 2x equal to 6, x squared minus 10x plus 24 equal to 0, and 3 plus 4x squared minus 8x equal to 0. Okay, let's start by solving the first one. Can we actually solve this equation by factorization method? To answer this question, we have to solve for the discriminant. Don't forget the formula for discriminant is d equal to b squared minus 4ac. Okay, starting with the first equation, we have to write out the parameters, the value of a, The value of a, compare, we have to come to write to answer that question, or to write out the value of a, compare this equation with the general equation of a quadratic or general quadratic equation: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. All right, so the coefficient of x squared will be the value of a, which is 2. The coefficient of x is the value of b, which is minus 7. And the coefficient of the constant c is the value of the constant is the value of c, minus 5 in this case, is equal to c. So that the discriminant in the first case, d, will be minus 7 all squared plus, or not plus, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is minus 5. All right, and minus 7 squared is 49. Minus times minus here is plus, so 2 times 4, that is 8, and 8 times 5 is 40, right? Okay, so 40 plus 49, that will be equal to 89. And when you look at this carefully, you see that this particular number is actually not a perfect square. So it means this quadratic equation, 2x squared minus 7x minus 5 equal to 0, is not a perfect square, right? So it means we cannot solve this by factorization method. Does that make sense? Okay, that is answered. Now let's look at the second uh, equation, 5x squared plus 2x minus 6. Okay, before you write out the parameters a, b, and c, you have to rewrite this equation. So the equation will be 5x squared plus 2x minus 6 equals 0, where the value of a in this case is 5, the value of b is 2, and the value of c is minus 6. Again, solving for the discriminant d, d will be 2 raised to power 2, that is b squared, minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is minus 6. 2 squared is 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. Now 4 times 5 is 20. Multiply 20 by minus 6, that is minus 120. That will be plus 120. And 4 plus 120 is 124. And again, 124 is not a perfect square, so which means we cannot actually solve the second equation also by factorization method. Okay, let's look at the third equation, x squared minus 10x plus 24. Here the value of a is 1, the value of b is minus 10, the value of c is 24. Okay, let's substitute into the equation d, which is equal to b squared. B is minus 10 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 24. All right, and minus 10 squared is 100, because minus 10 times minus 10 is 100, and 4 times 24, that is also 96 minus 96. So you subtract 96 from 100, that will be equal to 4. And in this case, 4 is a perfect square. And since 4 is a perfect square, it means this particular equation can be solved by factorization method. We can solve this by factorization method. Okay, and finally, let's look at the fourth equation. The value of a here is the coefficient of x squared, which is 4. The value of b is the coefficient of x, which is minus 8, and the value of c is a constant, which is 3. So that discriminant d will be equal to b squared minus 8 squared minus 4a, which is 4, c, and that is 3. Okay, minus 8 squared is 64. 4 times 4, that is 16. 16 times 3 is 48. 64 minus 48, and when you subtract 48 from 64, that will be equal to 16. And again, This is also a perfect squared, which means that the second equation can also be solved by factorization method. All right, so here is another beauty of the discriminant. D equal to b squared minus 4ac. You can use this quantity to determine if you can solve any given quadratic equation by factorization method. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Do remember to subscribe, share, like, and also click on the notification button if you are yet to do so, for you to have get the notification once we upload a new video to this channel. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.